All right, good evening. Welcome to this remote meeting of the Sixtown Regional Planning Board being held on October 14th, 2025. And seeing a quorum, the meeting is being called to order at 6:35 p.m. in accordance with House Bill 62 of the 194 General Courts. All votes will be cast via a roll call. And so let me start with Greg Snedeker.
Here.
Alan Genovese is here. Michelle Girusso,
Here.
Steve Richter,
Here.
Dorinda Bellup,
Here.
Deborah Potee,
Here.
Pat Shearer,
Here.
and Renee Dustras. Hi, Renee. I mean, Raina. You're on mute. I don't know if you can hear me.
Here.
Thanks. And then we also have Jane Dutcher joining us. She has was a member before and is just contributing.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
It comes up. Yeah, thank you. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Forgot about me, Alan, Deb Loomer.
And where are you hiding? I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
see you.
It's always hard with the two Debs. He remembers one.
Oh, she's down in the right-hand corner. And Deb Loomer.
Here.
Thank you. And then I also want to welcome Kelly Skypes, who is from the, am I saying that right? Skykes from the, is a non-voting member of Irving. So very much appreciate your attendance as well. Let's see what happened to my
I
thing.
think it's Sykes, Alan, not Skykes.
Sykes. I got
Sykes.
S. What?
Just Sykes.
Yes,
Sykes.
it is Sykes. S-Y-K-E-S. Sykes. No
Thank
worries.
you.
Everyone does it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. So this meeting is being held in public, and we welcome those who have joined to watch this evening. We have a full agenda, so let's get to it. So with your permission, I'm going to take a few things out of order as we move through this to accommodate folks and to facilitate our business. So I see that Parker Elmore is here, and he from Odyssey Advisors is going to be doing a presentation, a review of the OPEB study for the other post-employment benefits. So Parker, I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds good. All right, let me share a screen here so I can show on the same page. Share this presentation. Oh, press the button here. Hopefully you guys can.
I can do it. I can do it. You want me?
So you guys can hopefully see this presentation.
Yeah, I move it up a little bit on the screen. That's good.
Good. Okay. So, well, thanks for having me out. So I'll just give you a quick 50,000 foot overview about what OPEB is in the first place. I know some of you guys probably understand this 9 ways to Sunday. Others are going, what do these weird OPEB things mean? So the short answer is this is other post-employment benefits, which is really benefits payable after termination that are not pension plans. 99% of these benefits are medical plans payable in retirement. So I work for you for 20 years. I leave. I'm 62 years old. Between me and my spouse, I get medical benefits for the rest of my life. That comes at a fairly healthy cost. And that's what we have to put in your financial statements. And so GASB came out with rules about what we called GASB 45 at the time in 2004. And we had GASB 75 that came out around 2016. And they were effective in 2018 for you folks. So long story short, this is just really to put numbers on your financial statement. It's a big liability, usually the largest or second largest liability on your balance sheet. So it's a fairly big number. And we'll talk about what that is and what you can do about it. And I would hate to say in the state of Massachusetts, not a lot, but we'll talk about that as well. And what it all means. So this thing has draft written all over it because you guys might make some changes you want to make. And so we can change it to final after this call, but I want to at least, respect what you guys might have to say. And again, as Greg had said before we started this meeting, feel free to jump in any time with questions. Don't feel like you have to wait to the end. It's not a quiz where I'm going to quiz you at the end and, anything like that. So, so basically, as we understood the study, we have Gil Montague, we have Pioneer Valley, and then we have Warwick has their own small school system as well. They spun out of Pioneer Valley a few years back. And So they all have employees. They all have, well, everybody except for Warwick has retirees in their system. And you can see some fairly healthy liabilities using GASB methodology, about $40 million for Gil Montague, about $30 million for Pioneer Valley, and only $477,000 for Warwick because all the retirees remained at Pioneer Valley.
Mhm.
So you
If
can,
you keep checking it.
what was that?
Don't skip that.
Pat, I think you're still,
Okay.
you're not muted.
Yep. You're
Sorry.
right. You're right. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
No, I am.
But anyway, so we get about $71 million in total liability between the various entities, which, is a huge number. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's a big number. And I guarantee if on each of your guys' balance sheets is most likely the largest number. Because your pension systems, since the state handles retired teachers on the pension side, your pension liabilities, while I'm sure are not pleasant, are not going to be at these levels. So we looked at the group together. About Gil Montague is about 57% of the liability, and Pioneer Valley is about 42%. Now, service cost, what that represents is while the total OPEB liabilities benefits have been earned to date. So for retirees, they've earned all their benefits to date. For active employees, they earn their benefit over their working lifetime. So if I worked, say, 10 years out of my expected 20 years, I've earned half of my benefit. Unlike a pension plan, which is based on pay, OPEB benefits have nothing to do with pay. If I make $25,000 or $125,000, my OPEB benefit is the same because it's basically the value of my premiums for my working lifetime and payable in retirement. And married people get a higher benefit than non-married people because they can cover a spouse. People who retire earlier get a higher benefit than those who retire later because they get it for more years. So there are some quirks to it that are not like a pension plan. But the service cost, much like a pension plan, is the value of benefits being earned during the year. So what this tells you is that in the case of Gil Montague, it's about $1.3 million being earned each and every year, adding on to that $40 million liability. Whereas in the case of Pioneer Valley, they're only adding $600,000 a year to the liability. And then you'll see below that, you see the employer share of costs. This is really benefit payments for retirees and their dependents. So this is not total healthcare costs for Gil Montague or Pioneer Valley, but it's just for retirees only. So it's about $1.6 million a year for Gil Montague and about $1.2 million in change for Pioneer Valley. Now, if you say, well, gee, and last year we ran our numbers and it came out at 1.57 or whatever the number is, that's fine. There's this thing called implicit cost, and you can read about it in the report, and I'll give you the quick overview of it. But implicit cost basically says we have to value the cost of healthcare for people regardless of what the premium is. So the GIC might charge you a premium for your 62-year-old retiree, but that's not based on their age. That's based on retirees and actives together. They've merged them together to create one overall premium. We have to take those premiums and make them age-based. So a 62-year-old should pay more than a 61-year-old, should pay more than a 60-year-old, and so on. So we have to remove the subsidy that's taking place that the actives are subsidizing the retirees. So that's why these employer share of costs is always going to be higher than what you see because we have to reflect that subsidy. So I'll get to the next page here. Just some key things to keep in mind as we talk about, you guys very well might change the plan design after a merger. I don't know. That's up to you guys to decide what you want to do. There might be staffing changes. I assume there probably will be whenever we've studied these things in the past. There usually are afterwards. But the level of such staffing changes, I don't know. That's going to be a decision you guys would have to make. Future funding. Would you guys like to pre-fund the liability? Greg mentioned it before we got on the call. Do any school districts pre-fund? Now, some do, some don't. I will tell you, they do not fund anywhere near the level that towns do. And a very simple reason, because you need to get everybody to agree. And the more people you have in a district, the less chance you have to get people to agree. So my districts that might have 2 members fund far more than my ones that say have 15 members. That's just the reality of life. And, what we'd encourage you to do whenever we do these things is if you're going to create a district, at the time you do it, when everybody gets along, we call it like a prenup, agree what would happen to OPEB if somebody were to leave. And I say this because we work with another district not far from you guys, where they've had a member trying to leave now for the last 5 or 6 years, and we're still arguing over how much money they should pay on the way out the door for their OPEB costs. They, not surprisingly, think it should be a very little number. The other 15 or so towns think it should be a much higher number. And here we are. We haven't decided it yet. So, I would encourage you to think about a way to when everybody gets along on the front end, decide how you want to charge a withdrawing employer. Hopefully that never happens, but it's much easier to make those decisions when everybody's getting along. As far as the design after the merger, we've assumed that people would continue to get GIC coverage, group insurance coverage. I know that's pretty much where Gil Montague is today and most of Pioneer Valley. So we would, keep that. It won't change the numbers materially if you decide to go Blue Cross or if you decided to go Harvard Pilgrim. It's not going to really change the numbers. It's just more a matter of when you wonder why we came up with the plans we're showing, that's why. Post-pension funding, in your guys' case, it's not going to matter a heck of a lot because while, the Franklin County system is supposed to be fully funded supposedly in 2035 or thereabouts, the reality is since the Commonwealth is handling all your teachers, the districts don't have huge pension liabilities to begin with. So they will get some savings in 2035, 2036, but it's not going to be like I see on the town side where I see, millions of dollars getting released. It's better than nothing, but it's not going to be huge savings for you guys. So again, nothing crazy about that. So again, we break out the numbers again you just saw on the prior page. And here you see them have the split between actives and retirees, which is kind of important. The deal here is Gil Montague has a much less mature population, let's put it that way. Pioneer Valley has a large proportion of retirees compared to actives, almost 2 to 1, which is why their liability for retirees is about 2 to 1. In the case of Gil Montague, they're much more similar. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that, Pioneer Valley is paying off by virtue of $1.2 million of payments each year, is paying off a big chunk of their liability every year. They're only adding $600,000 of new liability, which is the service cost, but they're paying off about $1.2 million of retiree liability. So Pioneer Valley is going to pay off their liability or stabilize it over time. Their liability will go down in today's dollars because they're paying it off at almost a 2 to 1 rate. In the case of Gil Montague, their service cost and annual pay go on the retiree side are pretty close. So their number in present value terms will stay pretty close to where it is today. And just to clarify for those who are not financially, who don't live their life in this world, present value just means what's a dollar worth today. So yeah, it's $40 million for Gil Montague today. Well, you'll see in a couple slides, we're going to show these numbers, escalate dramatically over the years. But, a dollar in 2050 is not worth the same as a dollar today. So if you bring back the dollars back to today's dollars, the liability for all these groups will be declining in today's dollars. So think of it this way. This is really your peak liability. So as ugly as these numbers are, and they are, the reality is as a percentage of your budget, they're not going to be getting any worse. This is basically as bad as it's going to get. Doesn't mean it's good, but it's still as bad as they're going to get. So you can see, this year we show $71 million of liability, which is a terrifying number. But if you've got 30 years, now we're up to $212 million. But again, in today's dollars, that's actually less than the $71 million you're showing today. So it sounds bad, and it is, but it's actually, it's better than it is today. So your numbers are only going to get better. And the pay-as-you-go cost, the cash out the door for retirees is $2.8 million today. It'll go by $8 million 30 years from now, which is about the same as it is today in today's dollars. So to the extent that you guys can afford to pay retiree healthcare costs today, you can pay that $2.8 million on a combined basis. Assuming your guys' budget in today's dollars, it's going to be basically a similar number. Now, the caution I would give you, and so I say to various regional school districts and towns and municipalities, is that, demographics tell you a story that enrollments are going to be declining. If you look at Massachusetts in general, New England in general, or just the US as a whole, birth rates have come down dramatically over the last 15 to 20 years and are projected to keep coming down. So right now we're down to about a 1.6 live births per female over their lifetimes. We need 2.1 for replacement rates. So unless you think Massachusetts and your district are going to see a lot of inbound immigration of childbearing age people or children themselves, your enrollments are likely to drop over the next 20 to 30 years. So, and more importantly, your population of your towns is likely to shrink and get older. So therefore, your ability to raise revenue will also be challenged. So as difficult as these numbers look, the reality is in some ways, these are the glory days. So, it's only going to get more difficult from here in terms of demographics. Now, you could tell me, hey, we're going to do certain things and people are going to start having 3 kids again and life is going to be great. That may very well happen, but I would tell you that, across the world in developing and developed economies, birth rates are declining and continue to decline. That's look at some graphs earlier today from China to Europe to Japan to South Korea and the US. All of them have been declining for the last 30 years. So I don't really foresee that magically changing. Could be wrong, but if I were putting money on it, I would bet on declines. Best case is stability. Just talking about the plans themselves. I mean, it's medical, dental, and $5,000 a group term life. Again, 99% of the liability is medical. I mean, I don't mean to diminish the other things, but if you're trying to find ways to save the money or look for savings, medical is where it's at. We've assumed that you guys are not going to reimburse for Medicare Part B or Medicare Part B penalties. I'm sorry, for Medicare Part B and Medicare Part A. You will reimburse for penalties as you are doing today. And we've assumed the spousal benefits do not change after the death of a participant. So in other words, if I'm married, I have my spouse on the plan, I die, my spouse can continue the benefits in the plan by paying the same 25%. Again, Mass changed the retirement rules back in 2012 for people hired after April 2nd of 2012. They need to be age 60 to retire. Other people can retire as early as 55. You're going to get 25% is what they're paying for medical.
Not too bad, is it?
Paying 20% for life.
I see.
Pat, you're back on. Your mic's back on, Pat.
Again, you're not going to get too deep in the assumptions here because I mean, if you guys want to talk mortality tables, we can talk that all day long. But the reality is, when you figure out what's driving these liabilities, it's I hire somebody at age 20, let's say, or 25, pick a number. What's the probability they're going to be working here next year, the year after, the year after? So that's termination rates. Okay, they make it all the way to retirement age. What's the probability they elect to retire at 55, 56, 57? Okay, now they elect to retire. What's the probability they elect to take coverage? What's the probability they elect to cover a spouse? Now we've done all that. What's the probability they live and die each year? And then beyond that, what are healthcare costs going to do? So there's a lot of different factors that come into this. Different factors matter more at different ages. In the early ages, it's all about termination rates. What's the probability they're going to stay employed? So you can see in the early years, we assume somebody gets hired. We assume that 15% chance they're going to terminate in their first year of employment. By the time they've been there 20 years, we assume there's only a 2% chance they're going to terminate employment. When we get down to retirement ages, we say, hey, if you're a male at age 61, we think there's an 11% chance you'll retire, or a 10% if you're a female. But if you're a teacher, there's a 40% chance if you're a male, you'll retire, and a 35% chance if you're a female. So again, there's a lot of different factors to go into this, and we have some disability as well. Not going to be terribly material in this context. Healthcare, we have a complicated model to talk about what future healthcare costs are going to be. If you guys are like every other group I'm dealing with right now, you're seeing some tough renewals. We're seeing some 10, 11, I've had some 20+% renewals recently. So hopefully you're not seeing those, but you're probably not seeing the 3, 4, 5% renewals you were seeing for the last few years. That's, unfortunate, but the reality is during COVID, a lot of people stopped going to doctors and we'd come off a period of fairly low inflation. So inflation spiked up. Doctors and hospitals were under prior contracts that didn't reflect that higher inflation. Well, now doctors, hospitals want to get paid. And so the agreements they're negotiating now are much higher, and therefore the premiums you're seeing are much higher. And then you've also got drug issues as well. And when I say that, I mean pharmaceuticals. I'm not, talking about other stuff. That's up to you guys. But talking to prescribed pharmaceuticals are also have challenging in the market. So again, you can talk about your pharmacy benefit management, your PBMs and things you can do there or not do there in terms of managing your costs. But again, there's a lot of things you can do. Here's the thing, in the state of Massachusetts, good, bad, or indifferent, it's very much a top-down model. And what I mean by that is in other states I work in, California, Florida, South Carolina, whatever, there's a lot of things I can do to manage the liability. I can change the eligibility. I can say, well, you have to be 62 and 25 years of service, let's say, to get benefits. Well, you guys can't change eligibility. The state sets those rules. In other states, I change how much you pay based on maybe what age you retire, how many years of service you had. I might charge, I have a case in California where it's an age plus service determines what percentage of premium you pay. So we can't do that here. We have a 50% max that we're allowed to charge, and we can't do service-based premiums. So again, you're limited in that regard. So really the only thing you guys can really focus on is the plans themselves, which is the hardest thing to change. And the reality is about 75% of your liability is based on the Medicare supplement plan. So there are things you can do on the Medicare supplement side that would definitely cut your liability significantly. But to be clear, it's a benefit cut. Let's be honest. You see the ads on TV, Joe Namath, Jimmy Walker, and any number of other people pitching in Medicare Advantage plans, how they're so great, know your zip code, yada, yada, yada. The reality is those are tight networks, HMO type products. They have a limited number of providers, but they're definitely cheaper. So you can definitely do that. You can cut your cost by probably 20 to 30%. We have some clients who've done it, but understand that it's a benefit cut. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. I just tell people that because the people who are selling the product don't necessarily explain it in quite that way. They say, oh no, it's the same thing you already have. And then they're, no, it's not, or you wouldn't be charging 20% less. So it's not the same product. So just keep that in mind. If you hear those pitches, it's a different product, and that's perfectly fine. Just understand what you're buying. So again, we talk about some of those assumptions. We assume 80% of people who are eligible will take coverage. 80% of males and 70% of females will cover a spouse if they elect coverage themselves. You guys do have, in this plan, you guys have 11 people who are over the age of 65 who remain on active healthcare plans. That does add combined about $3.5 to $4 million to the liability versus if they were in Medicare supplement plans. That's simply because generally teachers who were hired before 1986 did not have to pay in the Medicare, therefore they're not eligible. Now you could buy them into Medicare. In your guys' case, given you do not have your own fixed group that you're dealing with, you're part of the GIC, it wouldn't really make sense to do that. So I would not recommend that. But the reason you'll see is for a Medicare eligible person, say 85, the cost is $7,000 a year. On the active plan, their cost is $38,000 a year. So that's an extra $30,000 a year that you're paying that the feds would like to take over, but they're not Medicare eligible, so you guys are the ones stuck paying the bill. So that's why those costs are so much higher. Again, we talked about the open group stuff's not going to matter for this purpose. You can see on average, your guys' population is a little bit older than what we normally see. You're about 47 years old on average. We normally see probably, 43, 44, so you're a little bit older. Your retirees, most of them are over 65, not a huge surprise there. So again, nothing really crazy there. And you'll see all the various GIC plans. I'm not going to tell you good, bad, or indifferent. They are what they are. Your guys' Medicare coverages are, $450 a month, which is a little higher than what we normally see, but that's what the GIC has these days. There are certainly some cheaper products available, but the GIC is a very popular plan across the states. So I'm not trying to say anything good or bad about it. It's very popular. A lot of people use it. And we have others in your area who use Blue Cross, and that's fine too. It's all what you guys like. And it's not they all have their pluses and minuses. And again, this just shows you the demographics overall. You can see your average blended rate for your active plans about $975 a month. It's a little higher than what I normally expect. I expect you probably be more like $850 to $900. So you're probably 10% above what I would normally expect. But again, it's, demographics are demographics. So your people are choosing some of the richer plans, which is fine. I mean, that's, people are going to choose what people choose. That's pretty much what I got. Again, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here, and I'm happy to get into whatever level of detail you want. Like I said, you're talking, a fairly, healthy, $70 million number here. It's a big number. Again, some staffing changes and whatever could possibly change it, but keep in mind, 44 million of that's for people who've already retired. So no matter what you do, that 44 million is locked in. And a lot of this other 27 million are people that are close to retirement. So their numbers, much of that is locked in. So there's not going to be, even with staffing changes, you're not going to see huge savings on this. You might, carve $3, $4, $5 million off, but you're not going to get tens of millions of dollars. You're not going to save off of that. So again, I know I'm going on about a lot of these things. Questions, comments, concerns, things I can answer.
Do you want to remove that from the screen, or before
Yeah.
you do, Greg, I can't see the people behind the curtain. Is there any particular page or graph that someone has a question on while he has it up?
And I can
if-
bring it back up afterwards if you want. It's not a big deal. If you have a particular
Alan?
question.
Alan, my only question is, so this is, and I apologize for not being knowledgeable. Greg gave us this document that we could look at slowly? Or is this the only copy that Parker flashed
Yeah.
on the screens?
No, it was sent to you.
All right, thanks,
yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Greg.
So why don't you take it off the screen
Yep,
for a minute, since you
course.
can flash it right up
course.
fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And oh, I thought that was someone's hand, but it's actually my hand on the screen. So would you say, so is this fairly typical in the different school districts that you do, or is this?
Yeah, your numbers are not out of the realm. I mean, your guys' numbers are higher only in the sense of you guys have a more mature group. You have a much higher proportion of retirees compared to actives compared to other districts, which part of that is because these districts have been around for a long time and a lot of people have retired. So some of the districts we deal with are newer districts, and so therefore the active retiree ratio is different. But again, like I said, your guys, from one standpoint, you got $71 million. You guys are at peak retirees, so that your number of people in the plan is going to go down over time. I always like to say people stop taking coverage. It sounds so much gentler than saying people die off. So as retirees decide to stop taking coverage, the liability will come down. So again, your liability right now is as bad as it's going to be. But like I said, you also have demographic issues, which are going to create another challenge. So, you have to take that in consideration with it.
So in our districts, basically are pay as you go.
I mean, it's high, but again,
Is
in
that
today,
what we have? Is that what you found in your study here? Both districts, or this is, in their operational budgets,
Yeah.
pay as we go? Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
No
And
one's
then
no one's pre-funding yet.
Yeah, and the obligation through GASB 45 and these was just simply, it was off the radar screen of so many people in the general public, and it was felt that when you're capturing your financial data in your sheets, that this really needs to be included so the public is aware of it.
Yeah, to your earlier question about, how does it compare against other districts? Like I said, you guys have a more mature district, more retirees, and so if you didn't have something like this, you would say, well, these guys have $3 million a year of pay as you go cost. Oh my God, it's a terrible thing. In some other district, they might have 500 actives and only 12 retirees. You go, but this district has nothing because they've only got $100,000 of pay as you go cost. And yeah, because their people haven't retired yet. So it's a way to kind of equalize, to be able to show what the real situation is and be able to compare everybody on a similar basis. Otherwise, if you just look at the pay as you go cost, you're missing the forest for the trees, because for those, you remember, basically the swallowing the big pig or whatever is, instead of going, it's the pig and the python. It's like, well, it hasn't gotten there yet. So it's like, it's a matter of just where you are in the curve. You guys are toward the back end of the bell curve. Other people are still on the front end of the bell curve.
Okay, questions, folks?
Dorinda has her hand up.
Yeah, call
How
on,
does-
folks, because I can't see those. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we assuming, does this assume that the teacher population is declining along with the student population?
No, we've assumed, so for this population, for this study, it's based on it's a static model to say, here's everybody here today. But even in the forecast, we assume that the population stays exactly the same size in terms of the active population. The retiree population will decline, but the active population stays exactly the same. Now, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. It will come down because as enrollments come down, one would think that administration and teaching would also come down. But for these purposes, we assume a flat population. So in your guys' case, just want to make sure I have my number again, but it's you have 401 total active employees. We would stay the same 401 active employees.
Okay.
And I can pull up, if you want, I can pull up how many of those are teachers if you care. But
Yeah, I was just thinking about the ratios, right? Like Pioneers
Yep.
probably has more retirees because its teacher population has
Correct.
shrunk a lot
Yep.
more than Gilmont EU.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I'll pull up here in a second. Give me a second. I'll pull up the teacher count versus non-teacher count. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Come on, you can do it.
And could you speak again just in terms of that sort of like, us being in the sort of golden times, you're more referring to just like how the population will decline and how
Yeah,
costs will
yeah,
increase relative to students.
yeah. Just the reality is just, not trying to be, harsh about it, but the reality is, demographics across the US and across the developed world are women are having fewer children. Therefore, the number of children available to enroll in schools is going to be less. And the Northeast has not been a migration standpoint. It's been an outbound, not a inbound migration area. So this is not Florida, Texas, South Carolina, anything like that. So best case scenario, when I look at the statistics that I see, Mass among New England, Mass is doing better than some others, but Mass is best case expected to be a stable population over the next 30 years. So if I look at 2050, maybe the population would stay stable, but it will be older, and there will be less children in that population. So if I'm looking at it in the case of the teacher side, I show 128 teachers in Gilmontague. I show 50 teachers at Pioneer Valley. I show 138 retired teachers at Pioneer Valley and 126 retired teachers at Gilmontague. So it was like a 1-to-1 ratio between retirees and actives on the teacher side of Gilmontague, but it's almost three retirees for every teacher at Pioneer Valley. So, but yeah, to your point, your tax base is going to be the challenged part of this. And again, you've got people who do this stuff for a living, so I'm not going to try and steal their job. But just looking at it, pure demographics would tell me that the tax bases are going to be challenged when you rely on property taxes, when you have an older population with less children. Things like overrides and stuff are going to be hard to come by. Now, the tax methodology could change in the next 20, 30 years. I have no idea, but looking at where we stand today under the current tax model, it's going to be a challenge for you guys, I would expect.
Alan?
Yes.
So with all these numbers and so forth, and I know Karen's over there too, the bottom line is all of this is negotiated and all of this would go to whoever would be representing us as a retiree, and that's what it would be, correct?
Yes.
Right. So everything is a status quo, and once again, that's all. I just
Yep.
wanted to double check.
All right. Does anyone suggest any modifications to the report? I think it would probably be, if there was any, it would be more in presentation of the graphs and stuff. Everything's pretty straightforward. And you did a good job at, kind of presenting a pretty complicated issue. The hard thing about this, as you pointed out, is there are so many constantly moving parts, both in the demographics and at the state, and federal level, and all those
Mhm.
pieces that are happening. And that all, somehow you have to crank it in and hope that you're pretty accurate as in the projections of what it might be. So, I think this is a good reality check. It is what it is. And it's helpful for people to have this as another point of information. I'm just, oh, by the way, I don't think I pointed out before this to everyone. So this meeting is being recorded. I usually announce this before we started. So just want everyone to be aware of that. And Parker, it's being recorded. And I will, once the board accepts this report, you will get an invoice to us, and we'll take care of that end. And I want you to know also, in the long range plan, we mentioned that you were doing this work, and although it's not required by DESI, we're going to send this to them as part of our long range plan so they can have it in
Yeah.
their file.
Of
All right.
course. Yeah, and most of our reports are always shared with PARAC anyway, so we're used to all our reports being shared with the state, so that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, again, to your point, I mean, yes, there's a lot, it's a million different inputs and a lot of different things that work across purposes of each other. We have to value the world as it exists today, not as we would like it to be. So when people say, well, we think, we're going to have half the population in whatever period of time there, that's fine. But in terms of doing a snapshot as of today, these are the plans in place today. These are the people here today. These are the healthcare costs today. So that's what we have to value. We can certainly run scenarios and say, we think if, you added 500 teachers, this is what happened. If you got rid of 200 teachers, this is what happened. We can run those kinds of numbers. But in terms of what we put on a financial statement, they have to be based on what the reality of the situation is today.
Yep. All right, any other questions for Parker? All right, does anyone want to, I would entertain a motion to accept his report as presented.
So moved.
And who said so moved?
Dorinda.
Dorinda,
Thank you, Dorinda. Is there a second?
second.
All right, so he will know what's going on. I will start the roll call vote. Alan Genovese, yes. Michelle?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Dorinda?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Deb Bloomer?
Yes.
Maina?
Yes.
Deb Pote?
Yes.
And I think, did I miss anyone?
I say yes.
Where are you,
Pat
Pat?
Bottom
says
right.
yes.
Bottom right. Oh, there you are. PAT, very small.
Yeah.
And Pat is yes.
Yes.
All right, so that's unanimous. Thanks again, Parker. And I'll probably follow up with a conversation with you later on in the week. All right.
If you guys think of other questions, just ask anytime. We'll do whatever we can to get you what you need.
All right. Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well done.
Yep,
All
thank
right.
you.
Bye.
All right. So the next thing because it's such a timely issue, I'm going to take out of order and just talk a little bit about the thing that the towns are waiting for in terms of, the decision of the planning board regarding the delay and I want to address a couple of things on that. First of all, let me just share the communication from Desi, Christine Lynch and Michelle Griffin have been working primarily on this with us, along, of course, with Mars and the attorney and Greg and I. And then I want to comment on some of the other things that we need to keep in mind and the impact on the planning board as well. And some of the things we should probably put on another agenda if we do this. So it was, Dear Alan, per recent communications, we write to recommend that the Sixtown Regional Planning Board consider a change in the timeline for securing local municipal votes on its proposed regional agreement. As you know, for the past several months, the Office of Regional Governance has been working cooperative with you and Greg Snedeker, the chair and vice chair of the planning board, attorney Kevin Bresenham, and individuals from Mars Consulting Group to support this proposed regionalization. As we discussed, the merger of two regional school districts and one municipal school district is a unique proposal and is unlike other school district regionalizations, which generally involve an amendment to an existing agreement or the formation of a new regional agreement by independent municipalities. As a result, complex legal and practical matters have risen that need to be addressed, and recent discussions and feedback have given rise to the need for changes in the proposed regional agreement. We understand that you will need to review and discuss any proposed changes with the planning board as they develop. Given these considerations, we respectfully suggest that you consider delaying the vote on the proposed regional agreement currently scheduled for November town meetings. This will provide all parties involved in the drafting and review of this complicated regionalization proposal more time to ensure that a final regional agreement is clear and responsive to the needs identified by the planning board, and ultimately, we hope, result in an agreement that best addresses the needs of the citizens and students of member towns moving forward. We all share this common goal. Be assured that the Office of Regional Governance is committed to continuing to work with your team on the agreement and associated requirements. We understand that you have a planning board meeting next week, and we request that you share the spirit of this email with them. Thank you for your kind invitation to attend the meeting. Ultimately, we are unable to attend. Please let us know what the planning board decides. So that was a communication I had received. Actually, a couple weeks prior to that, when we were working on the regional agreement, Desi brought this up and suggested that I consider bringing this to the planning board and having that conversation. At that point, during the discussion, we were what I thought was pretty close to having a final agreement. And then some issues were brought up. I brought up some, Greg, they did. And in going through that, we can't just make a decision. It requires coming back to the planning board, having a conversation of what the changes would be, and then going back again. And that would obviously interfere with the timeliness of having that completed. Several other things that had, occurred that as we went through the process of community forums, some really good points were brought up in the discussion and comments that were made. And when we said we would listen, we just did just that. And so some of the things that came up that required going back and talking about this some more were, for example, someone pointed out about serving on a transition committee and a regular school committee. And that eventually led to a change where the select boards would make the appointment, and along with the existing school committee members. And that could be anyone. They may be on a school committee, they may not be. So that provided a pathway to address that issue. And we had questions about liability, and we had conversations about that. And the attorney and Desi and we agreed that that should be put in the warrant article. And so that was immediately rewritten. My point to that is that as different things came up, we were being responsive and adjusting things accordingly. So we're still in that process to do that. There had been some confusion, I think, in the public now because of some of the communication that has been put out there, raising issues that I think were misunderstandings. And be that as it may, it resulted in comments, both whether is this accurate or is that accurate, and that alone has me pause and motivates me a little more than I had before about it's important to have a delay so that we can make sure that we address any information that is not accurate, that we do our due diligence on those issues. That gives us additional time to correct the record in the public. We'll still be having our public forums. We can have other venues to make sure that when the voters do go to the polls or the ballot, that they can be confident that they've been informed, they have the information needed to make an informed vote. So that leads me to then the other part to it, which is what's the impact on us? We've been working at this for a long time. And Dorinda, I know in the technology piece, I think it's been at least 3 years since you've, stepped up and really helped us out. Could have been longer, but you were kind of a godsend to be able to bring that knowledge in and be on our website and so forth. And so, it's not, it may be a little unrealistic to say, okay, let's do that for another 6 months. So I think we should be looking at providing some resources, either someone in the community or someone else to kind of step up and fill that role for you so that you have somewhat of a break to that. I spoke to another member of the committee that talked about we're at a point where we should be really engaging young families that have children that this would impact, and having them become more aware of it and what the impact would be in their child's education. And most of our grant runs out on December 31st. And so the idea is, first of all, most of the heavy lifting has been done. We'll have a regional agreement in place. We know what the warrant article would look like. We've run the assessments a couple of times where We're very comfortable with what those would look like in our projections. We're revisiting the transportation. So this would give us a chance to bring that information and make sure it's clear so people could understand it. And perhaps engage at this point in the process a professional firm or someone to be able to help us in this last stretch before it goes to town meeting. Since we have so many things in place, if we leverage some of the money we have in preparation of that. So for example, we have some lawn signs that we could use. That's money well spent. I think we've already purchased a number of those. We have a brochure that we have, that you're going to look at later, that we tailored to be a more generic brochure. So we do the delay so that there's one bulk mailing. We can cross it with the mail list and the bulk mailing list with the voter list. So we can save costs there. We can save costs in screening because it's only one document. And it would keep it in the public eye. So I think we should continue that initiative and mail that out sometime in the foreseeable future. So people realize that we're still working on this. We have things that we can do that don't cost money, like going public access TV, having recordings, radio, continue the articles. And I think on the next agenda, if we're delaying and moving forward, we really ought to focus on how we want to be able to bring people into this. Imagine many of you are, after 6 years, are looking forward to finishing this work and getting assistance for doing so. So I want to put that as a backdrop because I'm not unaware of the kind of emotional impact of, okay, we're not quite there yet and we need a little more time so that the voters can have accurate information. I was a little disappointed in a post I saw about that, just let's call for a vote. Let's do this now. I find that troubling because that doesn't allow for voters to get accurate information before they vote. And I think it would be the wrong thing to do to call for a vote when there appears to be confusion out there now about some of the things that we've reported out. So with that said, why don't I open it up for discussion and eventually someone can make a motion to determine if or actually, why don't I do it this way? I would entertain a motion that we vote to delay, and if it's seconded, let's have a good discussion about it and then take a vote.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thanks, Michelle. All right, let's open it up for discussion. Deb. Deb, you're on mute. I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry,
Thank you.
sorry. So here's my question. We are in the age of technology. It is obvious that misinformation is out there. You can look at the Everything Greenfields, Facebook page. You can look at postings that individuals have made. And that information, as is the world right now, just spreads. And we don't have, I don't think, the mechanism to respond to those types of wrong information that's out there. So that for me would be, and I certainly don't want this to be confrontational, but I feel like saying when you see something that's not has the wrong information, the longer it stays out there, by the time you get a flyer out, by the time we do anything, it's once again, and I know you know this, spread, and I don't have the answer, so I probably shouldn't have said anything, but I feel like saying, if you see something, can you say something? I know one of the big things in my question for you was, the big thing was, well, have you added in the Pioneer new salary, whatever? well, when did we get that information? And so that became a very big deal that really wasn't, as far as I'm concerned, this committee's fault because it was knowledge that wasn't there. But once again, we're made to look like the dummies. And the people who are trying to slide things by. And I guess I'd love to hear other people say, how do you combat the total misinformation that gets put out there by people who aren't open-minded and just have something to say?
I would say, Deb or anyone, I think the more we talk face to face with people and listen, the better off we are. I think running after people who are posting on Nextdoor or, Facebook or wherever they're posting, I just can't pay attention to that stuff. I would rather have a conversation with somebody. I'd rather have small groups to talk about things. I just think psychologically, this whole experience has been really hard. I'll talk about it for me personally. It's been really hard for me as somebody who doesn't really enjoy um, connecting with people in ways that feel negative, since I don't really see myself as a negative person, and I think only of students and their potential and the possibilities of them getting everything that they need. When I walk into the library and people stop talking because I know they're talking about me when they see me, it's like the most painful thing I can imagine. I don't want to be known as somebody who doesn't care or isn't engaged or wants to shut down a school or do something that's different. I want to talk to people. I really do. I want to be able to hear their perspective, but I also want them to understand that we have spent countless hours on this, and we care passionately about doing the right thing by students. So I guess I would just say, I think there's some stuff we have to let go. We can put out accurate information. If anyone wants to respond to things that they see, go for it. I know that I don't have the bandwidth to do that. I am always happy to meet with people in person. I think that's where we get the most accurate information and they see us as real people. What I resent most about this process is people accusing us of being a rogue group with our own personal agenda. And I don't appreciate that. It's incredibly disrespectful. And I'm very done with people who see us as a negative force. I think people should be congratulating us and sincerely, authentically praising our work. And I don't see that in my experiences. So I'm not going to be going off and running around trying to respond to people who are posting stuff that may or may not be true. But have at it if anyone wants to do that. But I don't think that experience, I think that experience might be just really hard to do. It might not get the benefit that you would need by talking to somebody in person. It's much harder to be harmful in person than it is online.
No, I was thinking more about people who are employed by the Pioneer District who have, so you would say you would just ignore that and not.
I think we need to keep our eyes on communicating our stuff accurately online and let people just be the way they want to be. I mean, I just want to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
I want to see this through the end, and I want to take care of ourselves too.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
I want to make a suggestion here. This is a great conversation and there's many pieces to it. And I would suggest that this should be an agenda topic for later on how we approach this. I think, people are looking for facts and, the fact that, which is really disappointing to me, is it could have been a more collaborative process. And I know that, beginning in I think it was October of 2021, when the superintendent Pioneer was still an interim superintendent, we sent out agendas, we sent out invitations. We really wanted her to be aware of what we were doing and participate. And then she was hired as a permanent superintendent. And we continued to reach out both verbally on the sending her the agendas, the invitations, and she has never participated in that. And that was discouraging. And it's discouraging now that she's looking at this for the first time from a view of how is this not a productive thing that we're trying to do, because we're trying to address a structural issue that we're having in our towns on how to make it a more affordable and sustainable and offer more opportunities for kids. That's the bottom line. And there've been a lot of obstacles and challenges in our way, and I've got those well documented, but that doesn't serve any purpose. What does serve the purpose is we remain focused on really making sure have accurate information. And regarding the assessments, we actually did the assessments by law. We did it the way that we are supposed to do it, and no teacher would be making less money. And when that came up at the forum, Deb, that you hosted at the library, I specifically answered that and said, we're required that no teacher will be making less money. And that was accurate. And when we wanted to just make sure that in our calculations and our assessment methodology that we've picked up every aspect, we were over aggressive in that, because our original one done 3 years ago, when we made up a mock salary schedule, it put people higher on different things. So there's very little differential. The assessments actually went down. So that's the kind of information that we need to get out there so people can see, because that was made a big deal of, that it was going to be unfathomable for the towns to be able to afford it. That is not the case.
Right.
So let's stay.
No, I
sorry.
agree. I think we should stay focused, and sorry if I went
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
but I also want to protect people on this committee and keep our
Yes.
eyes. I think it's great there, even though I would like this to all be over with. I think it's better that we wait. So I'm definitely in favor of waiting and making sure people have as much information as possible, and give people a chance to talk amongst themselves, to think about it, and to see, and get used to the idea. I think that's always been the challenge. I think for people is just wrapping their heads around it, and time will help people as they ponder what it would look like. I think time could be on our side. So I've definitely now in support, despite wanting it to be over with also.
And we have the narrative going now. People are actually talking about it. When we were having forums and things like that, we were having trouble being able to, get information to different stakeholders and get feedback. So now we do have that opportunity. So let's capitalize on it. So are you ready to take a vote? I'll do a roll call vote if you want.
Dorinda has her hand up.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it's fine. I can talk after. It's
Okay,
not
I
regarding
think,
the vote.
Raina, I think is your hand up or is that my hand on you?
Yeah,
Oh, thanks.
no,
There you
that's my hand. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
So I'm curious what if you have a timeline in mind. I mean, we're talking about delaying the process, but I mean, not that the work would continue, obviously, but do you have a sense of how long before, we work out some of the kinks and have a district agreement ready to give to the towns?
Well, personally, I'm thinking the spring. But I think that, once we have this all lined up, I would have the planning board take that vote. But to answer your question, which is a good one, that's where I think we're headed. We
So
also,
you're-
by the
like
way,
the
will
spring town meetings, the May, June.
Yeah, or probably a special town meeting in that area, would be something the planning board should be talking about. Okay? Yeah, thank you. Good question. We ready for a roll call vote? Thumbs up, down, any other questions? I'm seeing thumbs up. Okay. Michelle, we'll start with you.
Yes, I vote to delay.
Alan, Genevieve says yes. Steve,
Yes.
Dorinda,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Deb, Patay,
Yes.
Raina,
Abstain.
okay. Deb Loomer,
Yes.
Pat, you're there. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
And Pat,
Yes.
thank you. You got to put Patricia in there, so it's a longer name, easy to find. All right, so then we also have now, thank you for that. So we'll notify Desi and we'll notify the towns immediately.
Can I quickly make my comment?
Oh yeah, please, yes.
Yeah, it's just like I think in some ways it's great that the public's seeing this. If the public says, the transportation plan, right? It's just a draft because ultimately it would be decided by the new school committee, but it's great that people are seeing it and saying, maybe this isn't what we want. Maybe we wanted an adjustment. I mean, it's been out for years, but things like that, it's good to finally have feedback in some ways. And I think, and have that back and forth and have some time to tweak it. And I also think, yes, we do need to engage. We need a professional who can disseminate information. And that, I don't think that's us. I think we've been putting a lot of pressure on ourselves and feeling like someone made a comment, I need to fix that comment. And it's hard, right? So I do think we need a professional. It doesn't necessarily need to be a firm. It could even be an individual whose job is to take that on and disseminate information.
Thank you. That's a,
And I'd like to make a comment after Dorinda. I think we need to stay the course. What I'm seeing in Leiden is people asking good questions. They want more data. And the perfect storm is here. I don't know how many of you read the newspaper. The MMA came out with what difficulties the cities and towns are facing. And I think the more we get this out there, the more talk there's going to be. There's a lot happening across the state. Something came out in the Boston Globe last week about rural school districts and suburban school districts have been getting more money. We know that the Chapter 70 formula is being looked at. I just think this is the perfect storm for us, and we should stay our course. We have a very good committee here, and a few more months, I think, will do us well.
thank you. Thank you. Pat, did you have a comment? I saw your screen light up. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think if we didn't follow through, it would definitely be not very good light on what we have done and how proud we are of what we've done. I think we need to be here and sing the song that we need to do and listen to people and answer the questions. And if we can get a professional to help us, that would be amazing. So yeah.
All right, thank you. So this will be one of the main topics on our next agenda is then what next step for the public outreach and how we should go about that and address concerns and methodology of best to proceed with that. And maybe of someone in the community that has technology expertise that we can enlist to help, and also maybe even an expertise or interest in working with a few people to be involved in the outreach effort and providing information in different venues. So I think that Dorinda, that's a great suggestion. And by the way, I just want you to know that that was an original thought on my part. I had a conversation with Dorinda about possible next steps, and she had indicated that that would be really maybe in our best interest to see what we can do to solicit more expertise from someone who's familiar with how to go about this. So I want to make sure I give a shout out to you, Dorinda, because I think that was a good point to make. All
Can
right.
I ask one question?
Yes.
How would we add people to that? I might know someone, but I'm just trying to think about, like, they wouldn't be on our committee. They might be a volunteer. Let's just put it that way. That's my word. Maybe they don't want to be paid as a consultant. How would we address that?
So that's a great lead into Jay. And so one of the things, would they be like this large group of the marketing PR committee or
Mhm.
subcommittee is kind of what I was envisioning that would then just take that ball,
Right.
run with it, and you know, someone would keep us informed, that kind of thing. The other thing, and Jay, or somewhere there you are. I was wondering in terms of the planning board, are we limited in terms of if we reached out to parents and we had, let's say, 5, 6, 7 parents that really wanted to get involved, you know, their children are going to be impacted by this. Are there limitations when the law set up the structure of the composition of a planning board? Did it outline the minimum that it needed for school committee representation in town and so forth? Or was that just was that the minimum and it could be more?
No, I'm not familiar with any limit. I mean, what you're talking about is community engagement. And you can pursue that with volunteers, or you can you know, get after that the way you wish. A little more complicated if you're going to pay somebody, but you could, if you have resources, you could bring on a communications person to help you. So yeah, you can campaign for your cause, so to speak, as long as you're staying in bounds.
Yeah. All right. So Jay, since you have the floor, why don't we move over to, or the screen, I guess we have to say virtually. Do you want to move over then and go through the changes in the regional agreement?
Yeah, if Greg could call this up, it would help.
And I think they had mine is in black and white, but Jay, the green reflected just cosmetic revisions.
Yeah, I'll get to let
Okay.
me just
Sure.
give Greg a minute to share this.
Sorry, I'm coming. I had to step out for 2 seconds.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. All right. So you want me to share the regional agreement?
Yeah, if you would.
Yeah, sure. Let me just open it up.
Great. Okay, so I'm actually going to use my copy, so I may not. I'd like to get through this and then we can discuss things or have questions if people would like to. So you're all pretty familiar with this document. I'm not going to go through every single section in detail. You can see the edits in this thing, and I'm going to just focus on the most recent changes. The overall status of this is that what you're seeing was sent to the Department of Education on October 7th. So we're waiting to hear back from them, but we also had a very good conversation about things they wanted changed. So there's a even though I can't promise it, there's a pretty good chance that this document is getting to the point where it needs to be. It may not need another vote from the planning board if things go well. Okay, so yeah, just really quickly, some of these things, like this thing in green is a citation. They wanted section 1416I attached to the reference to chapter 71. There were no changes to section 1. that you don't, this stays the same as you've seen it before. The Regional School District Committee also stays virtually the same as you've seen it before. The thing in green is just to have consistency when we reference a section that it's capitalized. Some of this stuff is that picky. And then students, again, the change here was to specifically mention, you may already know this, the tuition agreements with Irving, Vernon, Vermont, and Winchester, New Hampshire, and the Ralph Mahar Regional District. So they didn't want a general statement about tuition agreements. They wanted the specific ones that are in place, which is fine. And we added that. So this language is the same as the drafts committee drafted way back when, in the sense that the committee is going to honor existing leases, negotiate new ones if they need to, and the reference to the $20,000 cost that would be paid directly by the town in an elementary school. That's old language. Nothing there has changed. These are the schools. Secondary schools listed below shall be owned by the district contingent on the passage of special legislation, which is a change they wanted. So middle school and high school definitions, who's going where, there are no changes there. The process to close the school, I think you've seen this before, but there's basically two pathways to doing it. One begins with a feasibility study that has a lot of very thorough components. And then there's a review of it, and there's a public forum and so forth. So it's a very thorough and long-term method. And then finally, there's a committee vote, and then that vote, it goes to town meetings to see whether it's endorsed. And then the second method is this business about if an elementary school's enrollment really has a precipitous decline, and 20 students is not class size, 20 students is total enrollment. And then there's a little bit more of a faster track for the committee to take action. But again, the towns have to vote to approve that school committee vote. That's not changed since the previous version. There were very few changes. I don't think there were any changes in the budget section. A little bit of clarity about wording. Very clear about wanting the method by which the annual charges are assessed, being that phrase being added. So this is the language about an amendment to the budget, which didn't change, and the various methods for approving or not approving an amendment, depending on whether it increases assessments or not. The department wanted this term capital/debt consistently used in the agreement, so we changed that relative to the apportionment of costs. And nothing changed here. This is the statutory method that's been in there since the beginning and when the drafts committee did their good work. And here again, they wanted this statement repeated about a cost over $20,000 for the elementary schools. They wanted that in the lease section, but they also wanted it in the apportionment section. So that's what we did. Transportation, there was a correction here about, so in many cases, the apportionment is based on foundation enrollment, but transportation is based on resident enrollment. So we need to make sure everybody understood that. And provision for amendment. So this is not new at all, but to just remember that if a proposal for an amendment is initiated by town meeting, the school committee has very little role in what happens. They just have to pass that on directly to the select boards. If, on the other hand, the amendment comes from the committee, then there's a different process, and it can be reviewed by DESE, and it can be crafted and improved, and there can be various drafts before it goes to the select boards. Admission of a member towns, I don't believe there were any changes there. Withdrawal of a member town, there were no changes there. Okay, so this phrase was added. This is, let me remind myself for a minute, in section 11, withdrawal, just to be clear about language in B. The member town seeking to withdraw shall remain liable for any unpaid operating costs. They wanted this phrase during its time of membership in the district, so we added that. And then I think we go all the way down the regional agreement review, no changes there. And this is where we changed, there were some changes in the transition section. And it's mostly about elections. So right here in section 13A, regarding composition of the transitional school committee, and I believe Alan spoke to this earlier. The transition school committee members will be appointed by a joint meeting of the select board and current committee members representing each of the member towns. So that was a change. It was formerly school committees that made that appointment. And the same language holds true, or the same provision holds true with filling vacancies. A joint meeting, select board remaining transition committee members, and it will appoint a replacement from their membership. Election of officers, we had to change some terms here to make sure we were accurate. Gilmontague Regional School District, Pioneer Valley, Warwick Municipal, so we use the right terms. And then here is where we get into some date changes, if I have this right. So in this section here, the superintendents of the existing districts would call for a transition school committee the first week of October of 26. That assumes you're going to have Springtown meetings on this issue. Okay. Provided, and then we added this language here, provided that the commissioner has approved the agreement and special legislation has been approved. Okay, so that those two contingencies as well as funding come up again. And here it is in section D, in the event that funds necessary for transition planning are not available, the work to implement the Great River Regional School District will terminate. And the Gilmontague and Pioneer Valley Regional School Districts and the Warwick Community School will continue to be operational. So that's written right into the agreement. And it speaks to the importance of funding for the transition period. And I kind of maybe go off in the margins just for a minute here. You people have talked about delaying this process and the need to do so, and the advantages and also the challenges of doing it. But the other thing it does give you, if it wasn't mentioned before, is more time to work on acquisition of transition period funding. That's a big task. And so if you have a little more time to do it, that's a good thing. No changes the rest of this way. I think yeah, and so here's termination. The transition period will end as of midnight on June 30 of 2028. So in several cases here, we changed 2027 to 2028. And I think that's it. Yeah, here again, effective date of the agreement. The agreement shall take effect on July 1 of 2028. And again, it mentions approval by the Commissioner of Education and passage of special legislation. Here again, dissolution of the districts shall not, is also dependent on special legislation. So that's where you are. There's been a lot of work put into this, and it goes back to, I think, to the drafts committee to give them a shout out. Long process, lasted been, I think, a year or more. And the department has been I would say very thorough about their review on this, and it speaks to their concern about an initiative that, in their words, has never been done before. So merging two regional districts is something that they want to make sure is accurate at all the different levels that it needs to be. So those are my comments, Alan.
Alan,
You're
Alan,
muted,
you're on
Alan.
mute. You're on mute, Alan.
Thank you. I don't know. I think my screen went away and I clicked on the bottom to try to get it back. Thanks, Jay. That's good. It brings us up to date. So when we're meeting with Desi, as you know, I ask a lot of questions and so do others, and we discover things and talk about things. One of the things I want to ask you here on the transportation, where it says transportation to and from schools shall be provided by the district for enrolled students, K to 12. Should we make a distinction, and say, accept school choice students or resident students? Because could one interpret that if we take school choice in, that we would be responsible for their transportation as well?
No,
Because
you don't want
obviously
to go
that's
there,
optional.
Alan.
Okay.
That's pretty standard language, and you want to leave it that way.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing was, when you referred back toward the end, I wouldn't use community school district. I would go back to the language you used before, the Warwick Municipal School District. It was
Okay,
the
I thought
very
if I
thing
hadn't
last time.
changed all of those, I will. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just that one other spot, because it looks like you caught them all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. That's good. This pretty much reflects a lot that we talked about. The last thing why we have everyone here is you mentioned contingent on funding in one section. And I can't remember when we were at the meeting if I had asked the attorney, Kevin, if that should contingent on funding, should that be in the warrant article? And maybe I should call and ask him for clarification on that. And I didn't know if that needed to be at the end of this, where we say, commissioner's approval and so forth. Should it be there again, contingent on funding?
Well, the only thing there, I think, unless I'm mistaken, the ESC has approved the warrant article language.
They have,
So if
yes, they did.
So if they have, I wouldn't change it.
Okay, I probably will still have the conversation, because my interest is also protecting the towns and just being sure I'm crossing the Ts and dotting the Is. So, but thank you. You're probably right. I know they have approved it, but then I had that other question. So
Yeah.
I'll have another conversation. So that's an example of how we're trying to cover every aspect, and we sort of share ideas and come up with good solutions. So I think, let me open it up for questions and so forth, because when we finish this, I would like a motion to approve the proposed regional agreement as amended, because they've already done this. And Michelle, you're lit up. I don't know if you were just touching your keyboard, or if you had a question.
I'm lit up.
Yeah,
Where am
yeah.
I lit up?
I don't know. When you talk, it comes. So maybe you were just talking and it lit up. Open up for questions, comments.
Hmm.
There you go.
Hmm.
All right. Do you, I'll
I'll make a-
entertain it. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Raina has a question.
Raina?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I was just wondering if for efficiency, I mean, it sounds like Desi may have other comments, or, that this draft has gone to Desi, and this isn't quite the final. Should we wait till we have a final draft before accepting amendments?
The way they've been working this is, and we've amended this a couple times, is they view, when we submit another document, that this document has been reviewed and has the blessing, my words, of the planning board. And so then they can take out all their little highlights and red marks and everything else and say, okay, this is the latest one that the planning board did. And then any other changes would now, that's in the past, would just focus on any few things that come up, which again, we would then focus that, bringing it back to the planning board if we have the, the final. As Jay pointed out, there may be a few other changes that go as we complete this process, but I wouldn't delay. We need to send a message. Yes, this is our next iteration of an approved amendment.
Yeah, I think, Rena, it's a good question, and what I would maybe add is it's probably worth doing a vote, because in our next conversation with the department, they can see that you've endorsed these changes. You've endorsed the timeline that's changed. And the other important thing that changed here is the way that the transition committee members are appointed. So they know that at the local level, you've done your outreach and your discussions, and that this is the way you want it. So it really doesn't hurt at all, and it kind of helps to have a vote of support for the document right now. Yeah.
It was a good question. Greg?
No, I was just going to say something similar to what Jay said. Being in the meetings with DESI, that they look to have these votes to then move forward, because each time we take a vote on some amendments to the agreement, that sort of leads DESI in a direction that causes them to think about other things. So I think it is a sort of a process that has to unfold. And to Jay's point, by bringing it back to us and getting approval on these amendments helps them to sort of move on to a next step. So,
agreed. Yep.
All right. So did someone make a motion, or did I?
Motion to approve the new draft regional agreement with Alan's edits.
As amended.
Second.
Okay. Yeah.
amended.
Yeah. As
I
amended.
second it.
Deb?
Deb Loomer seconded, Alan.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Steve, I'm going to start with you this time.
Okay, I'll go yes.
And Alan Genovese, yes. And Dorinda?
Yes.
Deb Potay?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Nina?
Yes.
Thank you. Deb Loomer?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? Okay, great. All right, we're almost there.
I'm going to sign off, Alan. Thank you, everybody,
yeah,
for
thank you.
listening. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can pass that on to Mac and
Yeah, I will. No
Steve,
problem.
and just let them know we appreciate the work that they're doing.
No
And
problem.
we'll set up another
Appreciate the
meeting with
work that you
Desi
guys
next.
have done. Okay,
Yeah.
all good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, so the brochure, so the outreach efforts, I think we started the conversation. We will put that on the next agenda. That'll be a major topic to have a strategy of moving forward on that and providing information. So can you put so did Lindsay get the invitation, Greg?
Oh, I may have missed that, and I'm so sorry, because you did ask me to do that, and I think I just
Well, shoot it out to her just in case.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
we
yeah.
might be
I
on this
thought-
for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's right. Lot going on. So we were really fortunate that Lindsay McCarthy stepped up and did a review of a design of what it might look like. And then that was tweaked several times. And then we then started talking about, having it tailored to each individual town. She made up 6 of those as we worked together. And now we're at a point where we started talking about costs and so forth, that it would probably make sense to have more generic one. It will cost less. Can go out to everyone. It will keep it on people's radar screens, which we talked about earlier. And so she and I worked for a couple hours to kind of redesign a little bit. Much of it stays the same, but your input would be really helpful here. Can you put it on the screen, Greg?
Yes, hold on. Let me find it.
Because my printer is not functioning anymore,
Yeah, just give me a second here. I gotta.
so I can't have it in front of me. So
I just-
basically, why he's finding that pretty much everything is staying pretty much the same, with the exception of we're removing it, the town. I think we're putting all the towns in that section that was going to be Berniston, Northfield, Lagden, and so forth. And the next steps is what changed the most. The first one was town meetings are being postponed. I think it said till the spring, or I'm not sure, once you pull it up to remind me.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm almost there.
Yep. And Jane had caught something that I think got addressed in this, but if it isn't, Jane, I know you won't hesitate to speak up. We want you to. So,
And I had one too, Ellen.
okay, good. So none of that has changed, because we have to have that blank part. So can you go to the next page
Yep.
where it says, this is the part? So why don't we start with the changes? Jane, was your change addressed?
No,
Okay, what needs to be fixed?
under the 6 town benefits, the third bullet. Thinking of settling in the Bernardston area. And you might want to change that from
Wait a minute.
Bernardston also.
Bernardston, yeah, that was.
That whole
In-
thing.
Settling in the area.
Yeah, that's what it should have said.
That just means thickly settled, Jane. That's all.
So I don't have that. So let me just make a side note. So remove settling. And not town specific in the area. It's funny because we exactly talked about that. I guess it didn't make it here. Michelle,
So under teaching, third bullet, shouldn't it
Okay.
say realized?
Yes,
School motto to be
Yeah.
realized.
should be, yes, with a D.
okay,
D, yep.
okay. And then the one that changed the most was next steps. So take a moment to look at that. And can you make that bigger by any chance?
Yeah, nah, well,
No,
I
it's
don't know.
fine.
Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, that's better.
So I would say more outreach opportunities to clarify information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that too.
Yeah. So Greg, can you take notes on this part, please?
I actually can't. I'm sharing screen.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me
you can
see.
do that. That'd be great.
So opportunities. Okay, and that was the first bullet, the first one? Okay,
Yes.
merging. How about someone read it? How's that? Can we do that?
Yeah, I would say the second bullet, merging 2 districts in 1 municipal school district has never been done before, requires more time or requiring more time. I think it's okay either way, but what's people's preference?
I like requiring.
Requiring more time? Okay.
Yeah.
Finalize the regional agreement.
It's not just time that it required. I'm trying to think of how I want to reword that.
Attention
Resources? More time and resources? I don't know.
or more time and attention? Is that what you're looking for?
Time and energy?
Consideration?
More intelligence.
Effort.
More time. Effort's fine.
Effort. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's it.
that sounds
Time and
good.
effort. Yeah.
I wondered right before that, it says never been done before. Does that sort of leave it, because it probably has been done before someplace, but maybe
No.
not in Massachusetts?
No. Oh,
Well, not in Massachusetts for sure.
Maybe we should put that.
Yeah, I just wonder if we're going to run out of room.
I don't
Well,
know.
you don't,
Yeah.
all you need to say is never been done in Massachusetts.
Yeah, we could
Yeah,
just use
okay.
capital
Go, yeah,
MA
N,
too,
NMA,
Yeah, sure.
NMA.
Yeah. No, that's good. All right, I'll move down. Finalize the regional agreement to address unique issues.
And satisfy Desi.
No, Jane, be good.
All right.
Well, I mean, that's the truth. And
Yeah,
there's
it
no
is.
reason people should not know that that's the procedure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's true.
How about unique requirements if it fits? Issues is like, it's broken, like, it's
Yeah,
better not,
right.
just positive language
Yeah, requirements.
like
That's fine.
or something.
Can
That's
you
true.
read it again
Or-
with the change? 'Cause
Finalize the regional agreement to address unique requirements.
Right.
Instead
Yeah,
of
or a
just-
shorter word if it fits there, that's a synonym for requirements.
Yeah, I like that.
Requirements. Okay.
Review findings with legislators and solicit support to advocate for transitional funding. Yeah, I think that's, I think that there's a misconception out there that, funding is somewhere available because there's nothing in Chapter 70 or the state or, unless you're going to put it on the backs of your towns. I mean, there is no funding. So when people ask that, like that's not necessarily, yeah, I would ask them, where do you suggest we get the funding?
Yeah, so that's a
yeah.
really good point because there's where the landscape has changed. It wasn't too long
Right.
ago. The DESI is part of their budget. They would have the legislators give them grant money and they would put money in for, projects like this. Those days are gone. And I remember there was a town meeting where where people were arguing about, well, who's going to fund this? And they stood up and they asked, I won't say who, they asked this DESI official, well, if we vote this, are you going to give us the money? And the response was, we'll write you a check. Those days are over. Now we have to have the legislator earmark money or maybe go through the governor's office to see where money could be directed to this. So we've got to work closely with our legislators and give them time to fully understand what we're trying to do, to begin working with their colleagues to advocate and garner support so that if there's were to pass, there's money there for it. It's
Yeah,
kind
and
of
I think I was going to say on it, it's helpful too to explain to people that both our reps, Whips and Blay and Senator Comerford, back in the spring did introduce bills into the state legislature, and I was there. I think you were there, Alan. We both had to testify and in support of it and to advocate for parts of it that had regionalization transition funding. So they're aware of it and they understand that it can be a lot of funds to come up with, and with towns being this small and the tax bases the size that they are, it makes it very challenging to even consider the towns be able to fund something like that. Anyway, all right, I'll go on. So once passed by all towns, all 3 current districts will continue to operate during the transition period. Yeah. And that thing that's not mentioned in here, which I'm not sure needs to be in here, is a 4th in quotes district with no students in it would be formed with superintendent.
no.
Well, you know what I
So
mean?
much detail.
It's a transition
Yeah,
is what it is.
I think
Right.
everyone understands there's no
Yeah.
students, so there's no money
no
that
students,
follows
right.
there.
That's
Therefore,
right.
you need transition money.
Right. Okay. A transitional school committee is appointed by select boards and school committee members of that town to serve until a district-wide election is held. And that will probably need to be
That's gotta
changed.
change.
Should be
Yeah.
each town,
In each
members
town,
of
yeah.
each town.
Members of each town is held in, it would be, potentially 11 of 27. And then the Great River Regional School District becomes operational in 7/1/28 fiscal year of 29.
So that the transitional committee will operate until 11/27? No.
No, well,
That's
there would
what
have,
I was. Yeah,
I thought I just heard you say that should be changed to 27.
7, yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be.
There's
right?
no election in 27. There's no
Yeah, 'cause-
statewide election in
Right.
27.
Right, we would. Oh, that's true. There is no statewide election in 27.
So I think the
This
confusion.
is one of the timing issues.
Yeah, but the confusion here is that the transition committee is first comes about by an appointment of the select board and the present school committee members in that town. And then when the statewide election comes, the transition committee is the elected school committee. Unfortunately, they still have that same title because they don't actually become the committee, the permanent committee, until the school then becomes operational. So I just think there's there's confusion because they're using the same terminology for appointed and elected are in that same time frame.
It's almost as clear as mud.
Well, I know because
Yeah, maybe we should.
so,
Are we getting
so
into
the
the weeds?
transition committee gets appointed by each town, and it doesn't say how soon after the vote, to serve until a district-wide election is held.
Mm-hmm.
Until district-wide elections are held. There is no guarantee that the people who are appointed to the transition committee are going to be the ones on the ballot.
Correct.
Yep.
Or that they could be on, all of them could be on the ballot, but there could be some other people on the ballot too.
Correct.
So what I'm saying is it might not be the same composition after the election as it is before.
Right.
You are
And that-
absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So
So
could
I think it should say each town and it should say district-wide elections. Because each town has an election, right? Or is it one election since it's state? Somebody else could figure out the green.
Well, they are district-wide elections and it's during the
Trying
bicentennial
to
year,
stay,
so
yeah.
that is correct. And
Election.
elections is plural. All right, Jane, remember all this too. That's
So-
why if Lindsay was here, she'd probably have this document right on her computer and making these changes. So
So
I'll
school
try to
committee
relay them.
members of each town.
Each town, yeah.
We have the video, so we could just send her the timestamp and.
Oh, nice. Yep. Thank you, Dorinda. That's why you're the technology person. Excellent suggestion. Thank you. All right. If there's any others, I mean, it's open to, I mean, this can be like the major one. If there's some minor points or other things, you can reach out to her and just clarify things.
Alan,
So there's a balance between providing too much and too little.
Alan,
Who's talking? I
Deb,
can't-
OT.
Oh, Deb, thanks.
Hey, we are going ahead with these information sessions, right? We have one next week.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. So we're still going to present, we're still going to listen, and we're going to do that until we finish the last one. And by that time, we will have a meeting and we will talk about how we want to engage others and move forward.
And is there still going to be a mailing? Yeah or no?
Yes. Yeah, I that's why we're doing this. This would
But
be a
no,
generic
no
bulk
mailing
mailing.
with the dates of more information sessions on it.
No.
Just sort of a vague, we're going to have more meetings in the future thing.
Yeah, because we don't, by the time this gets out, so going into the weeds, Joanne is only there for the rest of this
You don't have to
week.
go into the weeds.
Okay.
Please
Yeah.
don't.
It may not go out for another couple weeks.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. And our meetings may be over.
So, Alan, you said the grant is done in December.
Correct.
What happens with money between December and March?
Well, We can see if we get through the governor's office or, you know, that pathway you talked about, some efficiency money. We could maybe ask the towns to each contribute $1,000 or something. Again, this is something we'll need to talk about, but there won't be any money from a grant. The grant is done.
The
which is-
grant, it was through who? DLS or DESI?
Yeah,
DOR, yeah, DLS, DOR. yeah.
You could ask Sean Cronin for an extension.
Yeah.
We've
I
already
thought
done
that's
that
what-
twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is our last extension.
Okay.
And he's been really great. I mean,
Yeah, he is
Sean
great.
has been really good. So,
Mhm.
so we want to expend the money as best possible to leverage it to get us, you know, get information out, and that's why we need to enlist volunteers and get other people involved to do some of this. This is focus now. This is all about outreach.
Yeah, I mean, remember expending, as we've done in the past, where we've had work that has gone over the deadline of a grant, right? The deliverables come in afterwards, but that's acceptable. So we could be thinking in that terms.
Okay.
Well, when a grant runs out, you usually have things encumbered and you get
Correct.
a
Right.
short period of time.
Correct.
Spend it.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
And then you
Well-
have to write a report.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. By the way, I should let you know that the DESI has commented on the thoroughness of the long range plan, and they are looking at it because they're matching the long range plan that you sent to DESI with the regional agreement. So that's where they're raising some of their questions. So it's a good thing.
Hey, Alan,
You put a lot of time into that.
did we happen to, did we miss the minutes, approving the last minutes?
No, well, that's the last thing. I
Okay.
have it in my pile here.
Okay, I just checking. Thank
So
you.
did we, so I wanted to, I don't think I did, entertain a motion that we move forward, and if manageable, if what's the word, affordable? Supposedly, I think we had like $31,000 left. I've got to verify that, but we have several things we want to do. It's too bad we couldn't engage our outreach people in this like in a month, but we can't. So, or maybe we could at least to get things going. So let's have a meeting right away and talk about that, because that could be some seed money to get them started. So that said, I think I'd like a motion, if I haven't done this, it's getting late, to move forward with getting this brochure out. If it can be managed within our grant.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Open meeting law. Roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Alan Genovese, yes. Dorinda? That's a yes.
Yeah.
Nodding your head.
I'm like,
Deborah, Pote,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Raina? You're on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Deb Bloomer,
Yes.
thank you. And let's see, make Kelly and Pat.
Yes.
All right, so that was voted, and then we're almost done. Oh, I neglected to, so we had some input at the last meeting from the long range plan. Those changes were made. It was sent to DESI, and then I realized when I was talking to DESI that I forgot to formally have you approve the long range plan as amended, which included some of Karen O'Neill's comments and some others. So that was made and sent in. So I'll be looking for a motion to approve the long range plan as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? And that was just carried over basically from the previous meeting. So roll call vote, Steve,
Yes.
Alan, yes, Dorinda, on mute,
yes.
Deb Pote,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Raina,
Yes.
thank you, Deb Loomer,
Yes.
thank you, and I think,
And Pat
And
says
Pat.
yes.
and Pat
Yeah.
says yes. All right, so those were the, I just, for informational purpose, I have reached out to several times regarding transportation. When we ran it the first time, we kept the times the way they were. And just, we were looking at times and we were looking at ridership and number of buses. We're asking to have that redone, and I hope that before our money runs out, that report can be done again. So I'm really pushing to have that another part of the equation to have an update to the previous two documents that we had before. So that's informational. Then we had minutes. I think that was the last thing that I'd pushed off from the previous meeting, September 24th. So if someone wants to entertain a motion to approve, and then second, then we can have discussions to see if they need amending.
Move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
That's of September 24th, 2025. We have a motion and second. Okay, roll call vote. Steve?
Yeah.
Alan, yes. Dorinda?
Yes.
Deb? Pote, sorry.
Yes.
And Greg?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Deb Loomer?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Did I miss anyone?
No.
All right, so those are approved unanimously. And I think the last thing now is to get a date for our next meeting. Now, on the previous agenda, I had put out a whole bunch of dates, thinking that we would need them. We don't need all those dates right now. We do need one, and I suggested, this was amongst one of the ones we had on here, of Wednesday, October 22nd. Greg, we have a presentation at the Gil Montague School Committee, correct?
On what day?
I don't know.
That's
We
no
have one on the 28th.
October 28th is, okay.
Yes.
And that's Gil Montague?
Yes.
Okay. So we thought this might be possible at the last meeting. How do think folks feel about this right now? It's a Wednesday, the 22nd.
That's the our special town meeting in Montague. So Cliff and I couldn't attend, and I think Karen's still out of town. So if you can have quorum without me and Cliff and Karen.
We might have a quorum, but we need your participation. So let's pick another day. So,
Oof.
I know things are getting really, they're supposed to get lighter, not tighter.
Well, we could do Halloween and wear costumes. That would be exciting.
You've been partying too much, Pat.
Hey, it's always fun.
I know. Well, glad to
Wednesday,
have you
the
back for your trip.
29th.
The 20, say that again?
Wednesday, the 29th.
I can't make that. I've got a special town meeting in Deerfield.
What happened? Oh, and the 28th we can't. Why? Let's see, we just had it, so we don't want to do it there. Well, let's then trip into November. How about Tuesday, November 4th?
Or it's open for me.
I'll be
No.
there.
Okay, I heard too. Try to plan on
Yep.
that.
Looks
Okay.
okay.
Six-town regional planning board, that'll be on the 4th, so you have a little bit of break and
3 weeks.
happy
Yeah.
Halloween. Yeah, well, a lot of good work done this evening, so I really thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Thank you, everybody, for
And
coming.
I want to just continue. Let's work as collaboratively as possible. Let's solicit people's involvement, and so much good work can be done if we're doing it in partnership with everyone. So I think we've finished our business. Does
I'll
anyone want to entertain a motion to, is there any other items that you want on next agenda? Besides our major outreach?
But you can also email me if it comes to mind. I know my
Okay.
brain is pretty fried at this point.
Okay.
So
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
moved.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Steve,
Yes.
Alan Genovese, yes, Dorinda,
Yes.
Deb Potay,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Raina,
Yes.
Deb Bloomer,
Yes.
and Pat.
Pat, yes.
And I want to thank Kelly again for joining us. If you stay on, I would like to get your information so I could give you a call and give you my information to see how best we can communicate with Irving in this process. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Thank